Stick with me, we're about to dive into a story where family loyalty means absolutely nothing. In a world powered by magic, this kid was born with absolutely none. For his power-obsessed family, he was a total disgrace, so his own father ordered him to be executed. Lieutenant Jeong was sent to do the job, but the boy couldn't even fight back, so Jeong just stabbed him and threw him off a cliff. A fall so massive, not even a superhero could walk away from it. That night, the soldiers returned to confirm the kill, but after hours of searching, what they found left them completely stunned. The kid they'd tossed off a mountain with a gaping hole in his gut was just sitting there totally fine. Then suddenly what? A strange green energy starts pouring out of him. One of the soldiers panics and rushes forward to attack. But the kid sees it coming, dodges and lands a single punch that leaves the entire platoon in shock. They draw their swords, but he just pulls out 3 coins and pierces 3 skulls in one throw. The rest of the squad tries their luck, but the once useless kid is now dismantling elite troops. The last man standing pulls a gun and aims for a blind spot. The kid dodges the bullet like it's nothing and calls him slow. He grabs the lieutenant by the neck and with a cold smile finishes the last of them without a single scratch. But what happened to him? How did he go from zero to absolute monster? Trust me, this backstory is insane. This is Kim Tae-joo. What the soldiers didn't know is that during that fall his mind was ripped into another world where he met an old man. This was Tang Gun Ak, the supreme poison demon, a master so powerful he conquered his entire world. When their minds connected, they shared memories and realized they were the same person from parallel universes. Except their lives were polar opposites. The old man was a legend while the kid was a family failure who'd just been murdered. So Tang passed down all his martial arts, the secret of Qi, and sent the kid back to his body ready to become the strongest. When Tae-joo woke up, the first thing he did was grab a poisonous plant and eat it whole. He meditated turning that poison into pure energy to become the Tang Gun Ak of his world. That's exactly what the soldiers walked in on. After destroying those soldiers, he had only one mission left: to annihilate everyone who wanted him dead. Back at the base, the general hears his troops were wiped out, but the kid's body is missing. His father is already losing his patience. But in this world, anyone without mana is poisoned by the air itself, so he's sure the kid will die anyway. The general thinks it's all over, right? Yeah, you and I both know he is dead wrong. Kill that boy. Kill that boy. Days later, our hero is admiring the view at the monster-filled border zone of Mount Jiri. A local asks if it's his first time here, and our boy confirms he's new in town. The guy with the mustache realizes Tae-joo probably doesn't know what this city is all about. In 2026, Jiri was a small Korean city until it joined the empire. The nearby mountain is infested with monsters, so the emperor made Jiri a free city to attract hunters. This means low taxes on monster parts, but also, it's a completely lawless zone drawing in all kinds of awakeners. As the man keeps on rambling, our hero just tells him to get to the point. In the end, the boss just warns him that this city is crawling with criminals. Tae-joo thinks the guy is a chatterbox but appreciates the heads up. Just a few days ago, Tae-joo barely survived that assassination attempt. After that, he cut off all his old contacts and started searching for a place to get stronger. And after giving it some thought, this lawless city seemed like the perfect spot. Since the Empire has very little control here, it's the best place to hide from his family. Better yet, it's loaded with all sorts of poisonous items that will be perfect for his training. Tae-joo is still new to martial arts, but meeting his alternate self, the supreme poisonous demon, was a total game-changer. So what do we take away from this? Sometimes your worst enemy ends up being your greatest asset. As for what Tae-joo does now, our guy's a simple porter hauling gear in the mountains. But here's the thing, you and I need to know he's secretly building power and cash to break free. Out of nowhere, his boss asks him a simple question: who's the strongest person on this team? The old man points to Lee Hyun-yul, a shockingly young girl who's a regular rank awakener. That rank puts her a whole level above a lieutenant our hero already took down. But for some reason she's acting strange. Then boom! The awakener collapses. She just drops to the ground bitten by a mutant mosquito, and the whole team absolutely freaks out. But our guy, Tae-joo, he doesn't get what the big deal is. Just then, someone else steps up to take control. The redhead with the staff powers up, channeling everything she has into one massive fireball. And, with a huge explosion, the mosquito problem is officially over. Total overkill, but effective. So why the panic? The boss explains that this bug's bite temporarily erases your mana. Some awakeners just pass out cold. Entire parties have been wiped out by one of these things, so yeah, the panic was real. But in the memories of his martial artist, other self, our hero remembers a poison, something eerily similar to this mosquito's bite. So he sees an opportunity. He decides to check on the girl using his poison spirit art. And what he finds, it's interesting. One of the hunters starts getting nervous. This area is supposed to be mosquito-free. He tells the team leader they need to fall back, and the leader agrees. Now watch this. Just as they decide to leave, something rustles in the tall grass. The leader jumps yelling for everyone to get ready for a fight, but it turns out to be just a long-tailed rabbit. You know, bottom of the food chain, basically a lab rat that breeds like crazy. Seeing it, the whole team breathes a sigh of relief. They figure they got spooked over nothing. But they have no idea this was not a false alarm. Before anyone can even blink, the team leader and the hunter beside him are instantly beheaded. Just like that, 2 men are down. They're being ambushed by orcs, their roars echoing as they charge into the fight. Seeing this, the mage starts drawing aggro, trying to buy the others some time. The boss looks at our guy, but Tae-joo tells him to go on without him. He's staying. The old man argues back, what can a couple of porters possibly do here? But Tae-joo is determined to help. He hands the unconscious swordswoman over to the boss. Tae-joo tells him to just start running, explaining he's only going to offer a little backup, and with that, the boss takes off, begging his friend to make it out alive. That's when our hero notices the monster's movements are perfectly in sync. Meanwhile, the mage is just unleashing hell-slinging spells left and right to hold off the orcs. That's when she spots one of them making a beeline for Tae-joo. She plants her feet, determined to stop it. One fireball later, the orc is nothing but ash. Tae-joo covers his nose from the disgusting smell of burnt meat. And then he sees it. He screams at the mage to get down, but before she can react, a blade swings right for her neck. Okay, get ready for a scene change. We're in the celestial realm now by a peaceful lake with the supreme poison demon. He ascended to this place a month ago, and he's thinking about how he'd still be stuck back home if it weren't for our hero. Thanks to their memory link, the demon now has all the knowledge from modern-day Earth. That knowledge let him reach enlightenment, finally achieving his goal of ascending to a higher plane. Too bad he didn't know any better. Because this so-called celestial realm, it's basically a fancy, insane asylum. Seriously, the place is just packed wall-to-wall with absolute lunatics. And to the poison demon, all those legendary masters and sect founders, just more crazies. None of them have any manners. He realizes he totally wasted his life trying to achieve enlightenment. Still, he can't deny that sharing a soul with his younger self has been pretty entertaining. So he starts to wonder how his other half is doing. They're the same person, but one became a feared and respected master because of his world. And the other one, he got labeled a total reject. And what you and I know now is that this old demon hopes his powers can finally change that kid's life. To become the strongest in his world, Tae-joo had to unlock the 7th star of his new poison art. Stick with me on this one. The old man imagines the day he'll finally meet his younger self again, ready to pass on all his secrets. But just as he's lost in thought, something comes flying right at his face. It was the sword immortal himself looking to start a fight with the poison demon for daring to mock the way of the sword. Without another word, the enlightened master charges forward, knives gleaming ready for a fight. Meanwhile, on Earth, as orcs burn to a crisp, the mage senses something wrong. But she's too slow to react to the incoming blade. Seeing she's completely outmatched, our protagonist has no choice but to step in and take command of the situation. First move, he knocks her out cold. Then he launches himself forward. It was time to unleash his new area of effect skill. He activates Dagger Burst, and a literal storm of coins rains down. The giant orcs were completely overwhelmed by the swift, deadly projectiles. The coins bounce off their heads, and just like that, our martial artist lands smoothly on the ground. He was actually surprised to find out it only took a single hit to take down an entire orc. Now Tae-joo had to figure out what to do with the mage he accidentally knocked unconscious. Now pay attention because this is important. He couldn't let the news of some unmarked warrior wiping out orcs get out. It would put him on his father's radar. For that reason alone, he knew he had to get out of there. Immediately, Tae-joo thought about how the old man changed his whole life. A mana reject should never have to worry about this stuff. The protagonist decides to erase every single trace that he was ever there. Cleaning up after using throwing skills is always a pain, since you have to collect every single weapon and projectiles are expensive. As he starts thinking about getting a retrieval skill after hitting that 7th star, he realizes one coin is missing and starts looking everywhere. Finally, he spots it lodged in a tree. But as he reaches for it, he spots a tiny insect flying by. Tae-joo moves fast, snatching the mosquito right out of the air. He knew this wasn't an area where you'd find mutant 3-striped mosquitoes. That meant this had to be the same bug that bit the Pro Awakener. Tae-joo gently places it on his palm. This creature's poison can temporarily scatter a person's internal energy and completely disrupt their mana flow. Our hero immediately connects it to the energy-scattering poison of Murum. Yet on Earth, humans had to use protective gear. Unlike in Murum, they had no antidote for this, making it extremely dangerous. If he could figure out the poison's composition, he could create an antidote using everything he learned from the old man. Then again, he'd have to find herbs in his world that were similar to the ones back in the old master's world. I know what you're thinking. And yeah, he's about to do the only logical thing in this situation. He eats it. The young man pops the mosquito in his mouth and casually swallows. His little snack confirmed it, the two poisons were identical. This means that if he can just find the right ingredients, he could create a cure that would make him filthy rich. With a plan set, our protagonist decides he'll start testing this theory once he gets home. Just then, a strange sound catches his ear. Tae-joo is stunned by what he sees. He's now standing face to face with an elite orc that shouldn't exist here. And from the look of it, this monster is hungry for blood. As the monster screams about exterminating humans, the protagonist is just baffled by its sheer size and the fact that it can talk. In any case, elite monsters were basically the awakeners of the magical beast world. To make it worse, no orc, especially an elite, should spawn in this area. Something was seriously wrong on this mountain. Without warning, the orc swings its weapon. Tae-joo dodges instantly. The power behind the strike causes massive destruction. The old man is amazed by that firepower, saying it's comparable to an expert rank monster. There was a very high chance that none of his coins would even pierce the monster's skin. Even so, he decided he had to give it a shot. Tae-joo immediately uses Swift Strike. This let him launch 3 coins at insane speed toward the monster. His projectiles connect with the target and just stop. Honestly, that result wasn't a surprise. You and I both just saw his strongest hidden weapon attack do absolutely nothing. And since his area of effect technique would just disperse the force even more, it was useless. He realizes the blood seal poison palm might be his only choice. At that moment, the creature lets out a horrifying roar. And in that one moment, Tae-joo realized he was hesitating. He knew his past self would be ashamed seeing him full of doubt before the fight even started. It hit him then, after taking down that orc pack so easily he'd gotten arrogant. But it didn't matter how scary the enemy was. He would just keep pushing forward until he won. After all, that was the way of the supreme poison demon. You and I are about to see what that means when his poison palm met the orc's giant axe bare flesh against solid steel. Tae-joo pushed himself past his limits, and in a flash, a massive explosion erupted. When the dust settled, the giant axe was cracked, but only one of them was on their knees. Tae-joo couldn't even scratch the orc. But seeing that he just decided to keep on swinging until it dropped, suddenly a blade flashes out of nowhere. The elite orc is hit with 1,000,000 cuts, leaving the human completely stunned. Not even the monster itself had any idea what just happened. As it blew into 1,000,000 pieces, Tae-joo knew if it wasn't for that elite, he'd have been long gone. Now he needed a good excuse for his savior. Right on cue, a voice asks Tae-joo if he's the one who killed the orc. The man points out that our hero has no markings, a pathetic non-awakener who shouldn't have stood a chance. Tae-joo was speechless, staring into those cold eyes. This was Lee Yoon-seong, the vigilante captain and guildmaster of Nogadan, and he wanted answers. Tae-joo knew that kind of presence, arrogance, and power meant this guy was a big deal. He had to choose his words very carefully. But just as he started to talk, his boss suddenly showed up. The middle-aged man didn't care about him, though. He was only worried about the luggage, which luckily seemed to be okay. And when he mentioned that someone had saved him, the bearded man turned to see who it was. The porter instantly recognized Lee Yoon-seong, who was already ordering his arriving soldiers to call in a cleanup crew. The Free City didn't answer to the emperor but to an autonomous committee. And the vigilante captain, a voting member. He was also the Nogadan guildmaster in charge of security, and a master rank awakener. And let's be real, this guy is bad news. As the boss points out that all porters pay his guild for protection, the guildmaster just tells him to shut his mouth. The old man immediately apologizes for talking too much, and nudges his colleague to thank the guy who saved him. Lee Yoon-seong asks the young man again if he really had nothing to do with the massacre, considering he's just a porter. Tae-joo confirmed it. He claimed he ended up alone with the monster after the mage, who killed the others, passed out from mana exhaustion. With that said, the captain's men urged him to leave since the survivors were secure, and the cleanup crew was called. Lee Yoon-seong decided it was time to go, but he had one last thing to say. He warned the newcomer to never cross him or cause any trouble in his city. He then walked away laughing like a psycho, promising our hero he wouldn't get the same mercy next time. Once the committee member was gone, the old boss could finally breathe again. He grabbed his colleague, telling him to never tick off the man who could make his life in this city an absolute hell. Tae-joo tried to argue that he didn't seem so bad, only to learn he's a corrupt officer who takes bribes and lets certain crimes slide. In fact, all of his patrols were just a cover-up for his shady business. If things hadn't been so desperate, the boss never would have asked for his help in the first place. Since masters are basically walking nukes, the new porter was told to stay away from them and just get his luggage down the mountain. Tae-joo knew he would have been in serious trouble if the vigilante captain hadn't shown up. He then realized he'd wasted a whole month after his soul-sharing getting arrogant just from killing a few awakeners with powers he got the easy way. The way he was now, Tae-joo wouldn't even dare look his old self in the eye. And from that day forward, he decided to get serious, making a vow to become truly powerful. The Free City of Gori had almost perfect city planning. The one thing it was missing: hospitals. No decent doctor would ever work in this dangerous place. Most of the so-called medical helpers here were just a bunch of quacks on the run from the law. Because of that, drugstores and pharmacies were absolutely everywhere in the free city. This meant that pharmacists had the power to write prescriptions and hand out drugs approved by the government. And you and I are about to see how in a lawless city, some pharmacists made a fortune being more trustworthy than any back alley hospital. So our main character decides to sell his miracle cure for the mutant three-striped mosquito. Let's see how this gamble pays off. The last month for him was an absolute grind, working as a porter by day and hunting for herbs in his spare time. His nights were spent training in martial arts, and he was forced to reach the 3rd-star level just to handle the delicate antidote prep. But all that work paid off. He's stronger now, and nobody's going to be pushing him around anymore. If this works out, Tae-joo Kim is about to make a serious fortune. He steps into the store. He gets the standard welcome at Box Drugstore with the clerk offering him a bunch of different products. But our hero isn't there to buy anything, he's there for the owner, which completely surprises the lady. Tae-joo then reveals he's a seller, not a buyer. The man in the back overhears it all and lets out a deep sigh. This is Bak Hong-pyo, an orphanage director, who also happens to be the CEO of this very drugstore. Tae-joo quickly greets him, explaining he's there to sell some of his own homemade medicines. The old man is already over it. Just another day, another scammer knocking on his door. Because of that, he immediately shoots him down, telling the city newcomer to find real work at the labor market. Yet the second Tae-joo says it's a mosquito antidote, the owner actually pauses, intrigued. He even thinks he must have heard wrong, but our protagonist confirms it a cure for the mutant three-striped mosquito. And just like that, Hong-pyo is listening. He clarifies that it's an oral medicine, one you take in advance. And when he claims the effects last for 10 hours, oh, you're gonna want to see the owner's reaction. He's annoyed because he thinks this kid isn't even trying to make his scam sound the least bit believable. The medicine maker just hands them 2 more bottles. He gives them his card and tells them to call him by midnight if they change their minds after testing it. Tae-joo leaves casually mentioning he'll just take his product somewhere else if they don't call him. At that moment, everyone left in the store is absolutely speechless. They all think he's a complete madman. Just then, a customer grabs one of the bottles with a look of pure interest. This is Park Jin-soo, a raid team leader shop regular and potion fanatic who asks the owner if this is even plausible. Hong-pyo explains that he can't tell right away. The only way to know for sure is to test the drug. Hong-pyo isn't expecting much. Not even the Empire's top companies could develop this cure. But the seller's confidence was something else. The clerk tells the customer to put it down, but he insists they still have to test it. The old owner turns around absolutely horrified. He starts yelling at his regular for carelessly chugging some shady, untested drug. But after a moment, Jin-soo declares it's just water. The owner is just stunned. Since Jin-soo has a ton of experience with potions, the owner asks if he felt any kind of kick from it. But nope. Jin-soo confirms it again, disappointed. He felt nothing. And I know what you're thinking, was it all a lie? With that, he calls our hero a scammer and tells the old man to just throw out the remaining bottles. Even so, Hong-pyo still has a feeling this kid wasn't just some regular daily scammer. Anyway, the regular finishes his shopping. He and his crew are going frog hunting and now he's running late. Despite all these products being seriously expensive, the man pays for the entire haul in cash. With his bags full, the regular bids, the old owner farewell. Hong-pyo tells them to be careful, still sure that Tae-joo was a scammer. Later that day, all hell breaks loose. Massive white beasts are causing chaos everywhere. Suddenly, a shield reinforcement skill activates. Jin-soo just barely protects himself from an attack by the vicious blade-tooth martens. These things shouldn't even be in this area. At that moment, his ally grabs her blade and lunges in for the kill. She screams at the team leader that they have a clear path and they need to run right now. The warrior reveals she's been bitten by a mosquito and she knows the paralysis is about to kick in. Her ally tells her to hang on just a little longer, but that's when he finally notices something horrifying. Mutant mosquitoes have appeared. If Jin-soo gets bitten again, the venom will overwhelm him and he'll be paralyzed. And if he collapses, you and I both know the entire team is dead meat. Game over. Alright, let's jump right in. His shield is failing and he's starting to think he's really been poisoned. What did he do wrong? He took every single precaution against this bug-infested zone. Suddenly, the entire party is ambushed by blade-tooth martens appearing from nowhere inside mutant frog territory. This surprise attack shreds their bug suits instantly. The team leader is blaming himself, his panic led to this disaster. The members bitten by the insects immediately decide to fall back and retreat. But for some reason, the martens are blocking their only escape route. Now they have no choice but to fight. Jin-soo just needs a little more power to kill the last one and survive. Just then, the swordsman screams a warning. And only then does the team leader see the horrifying truth. The monster landed a devastating hit. Its blade pierced clean through his shield, and just like that, the entire barrier shatters into pieces. But wait. The skill is broken, yet Jinso hasn't lost any strength or mana. This is the moment he finally gets it. The antidote he bought from that little shop. It wasn't a scam after all. It actually worked. Realizing this, he throws himself back into the fight, gripping his sword tight. Victory might actually be possible. Later that night, someone bursts through the doors of an old drugstore. It's Jinso. He rushes to the owner, asking the price of the antidote and demanding to buy out the entire stock. A little while later, we're at the market in the Free City. A blade-tooth marten said to be amazing for stamina is selling for 5 million won. Nearby custom armor goes for 50 million. Our hero Tae-joo grew up in the border city of Puju. He's never seen a market this huge and lively. Taking a day off was definitely the right call. See, to create more of that miracle mosquito antidote, he needs to reach the 3rd star level. The medicine requires insane control over his internal energy to process all those medicinal and poisonous herbs. But he's been overworking and his poison essence is overloaded. He needs some time to recover and digest it all. Pushing that thought aside, he remembers a meeting in a coffee shop. Hong Pyo demanded an exclusive contract for the antidote. From the looks of things, his homemade medicine was a massive success. Now, here's where it gets good. The old owner confirms it will revolutionize hunting and apologizes for calling him a quack. Hong Pyo brushes that aside and gets right down to business, asking how many bottles the young man produced. When he hears there are 60,000 in stock, the old man wonders what happens when they sell out. So Tae-joo just casually reveals that he'll simply make some more. He's handed a contract. Production cost is set at 10,000 won so they can sell them for 50,000 each. Tae-joo is smiling inside. His production cost just 100 won a bottle. The whole stock is worth 3 billion won. And when he finds out the tax is only 10%, he's starting to really love this lawless city. Then Tae-joo decides to change the deal, offering to sell exclusively to Bake Drugstore with a 30% discount for a year. The old man insists that's way too generous. So Tae-joo points out that he knows he's also an orphanage director. He says everyone knows the old owner is practically a father to all the orphans, funding it with his drugstore. Tae-joo declares this is his way of helping out. All he wants in return is a workshop to keep making the cure. Hong Pyo is completely overwhelmed by his kindness and assures Tae-joo he has the perfect place. And just like that, the deal is sealed. After securing the contract and a massive paycheck, it's time to gear up. Our hero heads down to the city's famous market, searching everywhere for some decent equipment. Suddenly, a voice asks if he's looking for a weapon. The man confirms he's talking to him, claiming to have the best shop in town. A huge, bald, jacked-up guy doing a JoJo pose even offers him a special discount just for being handsome. Tae-joo is completely weirded out by this and says he doesn't want to buy anything. But the blacksmith grabs him by the shoulder, insisting that this fresh meat has to visit his lonely workshop. The blacksmith looks totally unremarkable, like a passable craftsman at best. And yet you and I are watching him easily push around a martial artist who's reached the 3rd star. This guy is a hidden master. Later on, inside the shop, looking at shields, swords, and daggers, the hero is asked for his opinion on the collection. Seeing how impressed Tae-joo is, the blacksmith proudly declares once again that he is the best in the entire city. Alright, let's dive in. Our poison master is about to get a serious upgrade. The blacksmith looked rough, but true to his word, his products were absolutely perfect. Seeing the quality, Tae-joo immediately ordered 100 of the custom-designed weapons. The blacksmith checked out the willow leaf daggers, curious about their small size, and asked if they were for personal use. Baldy explained they had to be made from mana steel to work properly, and Tae-joo just asked if he could make it happen. The man said yes, but warned it would take time since he was low on materials. After running the numbers, he even added a discount just for the hero's good looks. The final price was 250 million, one with a 10% deposit, but Tae-joo wasn't shocked and paid the full price right there. With the deal officially sealed, the blacksmith promised to send him the first sample as soon as it was done, and then they parted ways. Okay, weapons handled. Next on the list for our protagonist was armor. He needed something with tons of pockets for his knives, thinking a classic master's robe might work. But then he pictured it and realized he'd look like a complete idiot, deciding modern gear was the way to go. As he wondered what to get, a woman with fox ears suddenly handed him a flyer. Tae-joo was intrigued. The flyer announced that Flame Boutique's new collection just dropped and coats were on display. A light bulb went off in his head. A leather coat would be the perfect modern-day robe. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, and you're going to want to watch this, the final pieces are moving into place. The woman with long hair thought it was absurd to have a wall around a city in this era. Her short-haired friend agreed, explaining it was an exclusive area for the elite, only reachable by boat. The woman explaining how the rich live in this city was none other than Jo Yoon-hee. She was the heir of the Baekdu group and also a cadet at the military academy. Her companion seemed intimidated, asking why she'd travel so far just for a fox leather coat. Turns out the coat was made from rare Siberian illusion fox fur, giving it incredible defense in both summer and winter. After hearing that, her orange-haired friend agreed that the coat was definitely worth using a day off for. Her grandfather, the chairman, had even lent her his black card for the shopping trip, but Yoonhee refused, saying she'd use her own money. At that moment, the train arrived at Guri Market. As the passengers got off, the cadet told Secretary Kim to hurry straight to the boutique. Back with our hero, he was now completely sold on getting a leather coat instead of a robe. A little later, he walked into the boutique and mentioned the flyer he'd received outside. The secretary immediately became suspicious, thinking this guy was also after the special coat. The shop owner welcomes him to Flame Boutique, only to freeze when she sees his face. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, she totally recognizes him. Tae-joo drew a blank, but she remembered him instantly. He was the porter. The woman reminded him they were in the same party a month ago during that huge orc attack. When he finally remembered the mage, the protagonist asked what she was doing here. She explained the boutique was her real job, and being a mage was just a side gig, then dropped a bomb saying she'd been looking everywhere for him. Hearing that, Tae-joo tried to bolt. He'd given her the credit for killing the orcs just to stay under the radar. Tae-joo really was not ready to face the truth once the woman had fully recovered. Fearing her questions, he tried to leave, but she quickly stopped him in his tracks. The mage simply asked if he was really the one who had saved her life. When he asked if she passed out after using all her mana, she caught on. Her savior had secrets, so she just went with it. Tae-joo tried to deny everything, but the woman started to shake. She thanked him with everything she had, explaining that because of him, she was able to recover the bodies of her team leader and her boyfriend. As she started crying, her eyes out, our hero had absolutely no idea how to handle the situation. He couldn't deny that he saved her, but his real reason, testing his skills, felt too selfish. He felt he didn't deserve her gratitude. Just then the secretary starts shouting at the owner for making her VIP wait. And trust me, you and I know this is about to get messy. The mage drops to her knees and apologizes out of nowhere. She tells the noble lady she can't sell her the coat anymore, leaving Tae-joo completely baffled by the sudden change of heart. And of course the secretary absolutely loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs. She rants about how they traveled all this way, went through so much trouble only to get rejected at the very last second. The mage apologizes again, insisting she wanted to sell them her most prized item, but she's found a better purpose for it now. She even offers to compensate them for their trouble, but our boy Tae-joo has heard enough of this. He steps in, shutting the secretary down before she can yell anymore, and the lady just decides to leave. As the secretary fumes about the whole mess, the noble lady calmly states that it's really not a big deal. Watching them go, Tae-joo starts to wonder if he's just caused a huge unnecessary problem. The mage insists she's the one who should be sorry, prompting Tae-joo to ask the million-dollar question, why keep the coat? Hearing that the mage points out something hilarious, people must tell him all the time he's terrible at reading the room. After all this, he still doesn't get it. She wants to give him the ridiculously expensive coat, and Tae-joo's brain just can't process it. It's simple, really. She wants to repay him for saving her life by giving him the silver fox leather coat. But check this out, Tae-joo immediately refuses, saying he was just being selfish back then and saving her wasn't his real goal. The mage couldn't care less about his intentions. At the end of the day, he saved her, and that's all that matters. She tells him if he really wants to pay her back, he should save more people so no one has to die senselessly like her boyfriend did. This is the first time anyone has ever been this grateful to our hero. He spent his entire life surrounded by the worst kind of people, so this pure kindness just overwhelms him with a strange feeling. But you know what? He doesn't hate this emotion one bit, and so he finally accepts her gift with genuine thanks. The mage is ecstatic and rushes off to get his measurements. Meanwhile, let's jump to the Lost Soul realm, where an old man is bored out of his mind. The sword immortal Dongbin Sonin is stuck in what feels like an infinite retirement home with nothing to do. To him, everyone here is the same clothes, same actions, same blank expressions. Well, except for one guy. Despite also being from Muram, the supreme poison demon is different. He's changed his hair and made himself clothes from the other world. He's either gone completely insane from being here, or maybe he was just nuts to begin with. The sword immortal is so desperate for something to do, he decides to ask the crazy guy to teach him how to make those clothes. So he makes up his mind. To win over the poison demon, he'll offer a special gift, the heavenly peach of this realm. A little while later, back at the old man's orphanage. Down in one of the deepest underground floors behind a sealed door, something sketchy is going down. Tae-joo's hard work is finally paying off. Just then, his phone rings. It's the old man who just found out the antidote production is finished. Hong Pyo is absolutely delighted to hear the news. His shelves are almost completely empty, which comes as a huge shock to our protagonist. Ever since the new mosquito repellent medicine went, public adventurers of all kinds have been flooding the store. And to make things crazier, some people, like the very first guy who tested it, are buying up the entire stock. Tae-joo tells the owner to announce more is on the way, but limit it to 2 bottles per person. The old man agrees, but worries about copycats. But you and I know our hero isn't worried about that at all. His logic: if they copy it, he'll just make something new. He knows nobody can create this cure without the poison spirit art. As the old man is about to hang up, Tae-joo makes one more request: he needs a packaging machine. He starts complaining about how packaging the medicine is the worst part. It's taking longer than actually making it. That's why he's been trapped in this lab for 7 straight days. The old man promises to send one over. Meanwhile, right outside his door, 2 orphans are arguing over whether the thing inside is a ghost or just a beggar they need to kick out. The boy tries to reassure the girl, telling her there are no ghosts in their secret hideout. He's convinced it's just a homeless guy they need to get rid of. But then a sudden noise makes them both jump. The door creaks open. An ominous figure emerges from the smoke, and when the shady-looking man speaks, the kids' hearts nearly stop. And just like that, they scream and run for their lives from the smelly ghost. After all that work, Tae-joo, who just spent hours packaging bottles, can't believe these rude kids just called him names. You and I are about to meet a hero who hasn't showered in a week, and genuinely doesn't think he smells that bad. He's got a meeting with his old boss because a coworker bailed and figures a shower would just make him late. Suddenly a woman approaches him out of nowhere. She heard from her father that he signed a contract to work on some kind of new antidote. He confirms he's Kim Tae-joo and asks who she is. Turns out she's Baek Se-young from the orphanage, and she's here checking on a ghost the kids warned her about. But more importantly, Se-young has a special package to deliver to him. The label says it all: the prototype from the blacksmith. As he thanks her, she reminds him to stay on her dad's good side. And just as she's about to leave, Se-young practically begs him to take a shower. But the moment she's gone, his excitement takes over. He has to check out his new flying daggers first. He tears open the package and immediately finds a note inside. It's from the blacksmith, sarcastically asking if the prototype needs any tweaks. Yeah, our hero is not amused. He rips the note to shreds. Relieved, Tae-joo inspects one of the blades. He's impressed it's sharp and incredibly sturdy. The balance is perfect, and the grip feels great. With weapons this good, he can't wait to see the coat he ordered. He remembers being offered the expensive coat for free. But now that he's got some cash, he decides to do the right thing and pay for it. Then he realizes he's late, and finally sprints to the showers. A little later, up at the Magical Beast border zone, Tae-joo finally meets up with the party, immediately greeting his old boss, who welcomes him with a huge smile. Tae-joo apologizes for being late, but the boss just says they arrived too. He thanks him for coming on short notice, but as Tae-joo says he's just repaying his kindness, someone with a big mouth chimes in. And here's where it gets messy. This guy is pissed that a simple porter is holding up the hunt and demands an apology. The arrogant jerk is a beginner named Jong Won-jun. He's a member of the raid team, and he reminds them this isn't some friendly get-together. Tae-joo tells the guy to watch his mouth, firing back that he has zero reason to apologize. Getting talked back to by an unranked nobody completely sets the swordsman off. A porter should know his place and just bow his head. Tae-joo feels a sudden burning urge to end this guy. Now he gets why the porter he replaced just ran away. But he's reminded that the penalty for breaking his contract is huge. He has to swallow his pride as the insults keep flying. After a lifetime of this, Tae-joo just plays along and finally apologizes. Just then, the other party members tell the swordsman to stop wasting time. They point out he was seriously about to slice the new porter. As the boss starts to apologize, the team leader orders everyone to move out. Tae-joo is immediately suspicious. This is a raid that requires 15 people, but their party only has 7. Okay, this is a massive red flag. He decides to warn them that even with the new mosquito antidote, they're way too short-handed for this. The swordsman immediately calls him out for daring to question them. But Tae-joo holds his ground, stating a simple fact. If things get dangerous, he's not sticking around to die with them. That's when another party member says he's had enough of this guy. Now this gets Tae-joo's attention. Won-jun decides he's just going to kill the arrogant porter right now, but the team leader Kwon Dong-seok stops him. Dong-seok reminds him they actually need the porters and threatens to kill him if he keeps talking back. Won-jun grumbles that porters in the Free City must have it easy. He's never seen one bold enough to question a party's numbers. The leader jokes that if they keep it up, this porter might just run away too. So the swordsman just sneers, then I'll just kill him. Tae-joo can't take it anymore. He's strong enough now. He seriously considers if he should just kill these lowlifes instead of putting up with this. But before anything can happen, the party leader tells everyone to drink their antidote and get moving. The boss pulls Tae-joo aside and apologizes for all the trouble. Tae-joo says it's fine, then asks the million-dollar question you and I are both thinking. Are they really going to be okay with only 7 people? Today's hunt in the Blade-Tooth Marten area is a cakewalk, all thanks to an antidote that lets parties run smaller. and ditch the bulky bug suits. The boss claims it's reassuring having 2 rookies along, then hands our hero a bottle of the new antidote. Tae-joo just smiles, accepting his own creation while thinking about how many lives it's already saved. He remembers the mage's words to pay her back. He just needed to stop others from dying for nothing. But while his new abilities were saving countless lives from the deadly mosquitoes, they were also changing him. Twice now, Tae-joo had considered killing his own party members without a second thought. The real reason for this shift, his direct connection to the supreme poison demon. That guy was anything but forgiving and always killed his enemies. Now, because of their shared soul, our hero inherited that same venomous heart. And honestly, he wasn't against it. He knew he was way too weak to survive on Earth otherwise. Tae-joo warns the boss to stay close, but the man just scoffs at the suggestion, saying their reputation is overblown. But our hero is dead serious, insisting he can feel a dark presence lurking deep inside the forest. And he's right. A ferocious monster has its claws aimed straight at them. Let's jump back to Muram because you and I need to see where this darkness comes from. The Juj clan is burning and its attacker has just arrived. Jujae-chan, the clan's patriarch, screams at Tang Gun Ak for daring to cause all this chaos. But the poison master just laughs in the face of the so-called lightning demon. He calls him out, revealing that his clan has been secretly working with the demonic cult all along. The patriarch screams it's a frame-up, that they're one of the 5 great clans. But the Blade Master calls them all liars, then casually tosses something toward him. Absolute horror fills the old man's eyes. It's the head of his own son rolling at his feet. The poison demon says this is justice for sacrificing innocent civilians to create the demonic blood pill. He dares him to call it a setup again, sneering that he despises people who sacrifice the weak for power. Cornered, the old man tries to trade his life for intel on the heavenly demon. But it's no use. The young man can't just ignore the countless souls who died because of his sins. So for that, he decides the punishment must be now. A rain of poisonous blades descends, ending him. And our hero's other half desperately wants to bring that same punishment down on the heavenly demon. Back in the present time on Earth, the mood is completely different. The party is celebrating. Hunting martins is now a joke, and the swordsman is loving all the loot. He starts mocking Tae-joo, calling him a scaredy cat who will never be more than a simple porter. Tae-joo struggles to hold back his rage. And I know what you're thinking. This is the thanks he gets for making this all possible. For a moment, he seriously thinks about just killing them right then and there. But in the end, he decides these pathetic fools aren't even worthy of being the first targets for his new throwing knives. Tae-joo knows this party would have been wiped out without his antidote, and he seriously doubts they can handle what's coming. Once again, the hero warns the boss about the coming danger, urging him to stick close. The man is confused, but Tae-joo tells him they're about to face a simple, famous challenge on this mountain, a beast attack. The second the creature appears, the boss starts shaking. A massive red-furred wolf has them all terrified. But Tae-joo just calmly tells the boss there's nothing to fear, and asks him to hold his backpack, confusing him even more. A wolf like this would normally take a full-fledged ranker to even have a chance. But that's not the worst part. These things always hunt in packs of 10. Wonjun is caught completely off guard, as a second wolf appears and he starts swinging his sword wildly. The wolf just dodges every slash. The swordsman panics, screaming at the team leader for orders. But the team leader, he's already running for his life. As the girl with him screams, the scumbag just tells her they're sticking to their usual plan. Their plan: use the porters as bait to distract the wolves while they make a clean getaway. The old boss panics, begging Tae-joo to do something. Our hero looks more than happy to finally step in. He instantly throws a projectile, unleashing his flying dagger art single flash. With a flick of the wrist, a dagger rockets past the swordsman's skull and grazes the team leader's face before slamming into a rock. Screams of pure agony rip through the forest as the party leader watches in absolute horror. Tae-joo calls them out. You and I both know they deserve it, one for abandoning his team, the other for trying to sacrifice the weak to save himself. If there's one thing our hero despises, it's a coward who throws away their own for personal gain. The swordsman and the leader are still screaming in pain from their missing ears when Wonjun finally notices something impossible. One of the wolves is already on the ground, completely dead. The shaking leader asks how he killed a monster in a single hit, but just then the other red wolf lunges forward to avenge its partner. But Tae-joo isn't having any of it. He glares at the beast, threatening to end it right there if it takes another step. He turns back to the party. Is this normal for you guys? He asks. He wants to know if they always throw the weakest member to the wolves when things get dangerous. Wonjun just screams back that it's natural for the unimportant to die for the sake of the awakeners. Yep, Tae-joo expected that answer. So he decides it's time they get a taste of their own terrible medicine, and instantly vanishes to a safer location. Now watch this. Tae-joo orders them to fight. Since he killed the first wolf, he expects them to handle the second one. The team leader calls it nonsense, swearing Tae-joo will regret making enemies out of awakeners. He starts yelling at his terrified party member who tries to bribe the hero with a huge reward for his help. For his trouble, he gets another knife thrown straight at him. Tae-joo figures the guy doesn't need his ears, since he can't seem to understand plain words. His job is to carry theirs, is to fight. He even starts mocking them, pointing out how much braver they were against those weak Martins. And just like that, he orders them again. Fight. He is not messing around. Everyone is stunned, but the swordsman spits that they won't follow his orders. Tae-joo just warns them they can't afford to argue with a giant red wolf breathing down their necks. With that, the swordsman tells his team to hold the line right before he gets slapped into next week. That one swipe was so powerful it literally knocked his head clean off his shoulders. Game over. The party leader screams he's going to kill the porter, but he's so busy cursing he doesn't see the wolf is now right beside him. In one brutal motion, the wolf bites the man's entire upper body clean off. The last two women try to make a run for it, but the creature immediately catches up to one of them. With only one person left, the merciless beast closes in on its final prey, its powerful jaws ready to finish the job. And just like that, the entire party is wiped out. The creature then turns its gaze. There's one more person left. The boss starts sweating. I mean, can you blame him? The monster is looking at him like he's the main course. Tae-joo is actually annoyed now. He was going to let the wolf live if it had just run away. But after killing a bunch of weaklings, the wolf got arrogant, forgetting the insane power gap it just witnessed. Well, that leaves only one option. Tae-joo decides to end this channeling all of his power. He unleashes it, the blood seal poison palm hits the creature head on. The resulting shockwave is so massive it looks like it reaches the heavens. The boss is speechless. How can an unawakened be this strong? And in that moment it all clicks. He realizes Tae-joo was the one who wiped out all those orcs. He'd been hiding his true power, giving all the credit to the mage to stay under the radar. The boss immediately starts panicking, wondering what Tae-joo will do to him now that he's seen everything. He drops to his knees and begs for his life. But Tae-joo just reassures him, saying he has no intention of causing him any harm. The boss can finally breathe again. When asked if he's hurt, the man says he's fine. Tae-joo then tells him he needs a little favor. One look from Tae-joo's cold eyes is all it takes. The shivering porter knows exactly what he has to do, keep his mouth shut. With that silent understanding, the two of them walk out of the mountains. The bodies are just left behind to rot. Tae-joo recalls his fight with the first lieutenant, thinking about how beasts will feast on the corpses, and his conscience is completely clear. It was simple, really. You and I just saw his code in action. Neither he nor his master could ever tolerate sacrificing the weak. To him, these people were no better than the Jugi clan. Meanwhile, back at the Ujie Pharmacy headquarters in Guri Castle. Alright, stick with me as we watch some seriously powerful people start to panic. Why, their sales just crashed by 50%. And they're pointing the finger at Tae-joo and Hongpyo because everyone is flocking to Bake Drugstore for their mosquito cure. The fat one starts yelling that they ignored this problem for too long and should have crushed their tiny rival ages ago. This is Oh Ban-bok, the president of Saiji Pyong, by the way. He reminds them that while they and Chan Wong own most pharmacies, Bake is the only one that hasn't bowed down. President Lee Gil-ho from Gurganuri Drugstore blames the committee for protecting Hongpyo just because he runs an orphanage. Nam-bok tells his friend to find a solution instead of just whining, which nearly starts a full-blown fight. Just then, Jo Hun-sok from Ujie Pharmacy steps in to calm the two hotheads who are always at each other's throats. He says they need to work together with honesty, starting by admitting his own group failed. And it looks like every major company completely failed to copy the main character's miracle cure. Even so, Nam-bok is confident his company can crack the formula given enough time. His colleague screams he doesn't care about later. They need a fix right now before they all go bankrupt. With that, the Ujie representative admits their hands are pretty much tied for now. He says that despite their worries, they should carry on as usual. The fat one saw that coming and asks if the investigation is done. The representative gets ready to spill everything he knows. They discovered the cure's creator is a 29-year-old discharged officer and son of Brigadier General Kim Ung-bong of Paju. Nam-bok is not happy. This means our guy has powerful connections. He's the son of a master, not some random nobody. But Hun-sok reveals that's not even the half of it. Now pay attention because this backstory is wild. Tae-joo is a mana reject who was kicked out and his stepmom wants him dead. The fat guy immediately guesses that our hero probably ran away from his crazy family. Hun-sok confirms it and says he'll go meet Tae-joo himself with an offer even better than Hongpyo's. And if Tae-joo refuses, they'll just fall back on their usual, much bloodier methods. Meanwhile, over at the Imperial Army's Magical Beast Defense Corps, a soldier knocks on the commander's door. The man in charge asks if his intelligence report has arrived. The officer confirms it came from the Free Cities Autonomy Committee. After reading through our hero's personal file, a plan begins to form. The commander realizes he's the mana reject son of General Kim. The military once tried to get a supply contract, but the Free City refused. But now that the creator is an ex-soldier, they might just have an in. If they can get that antidote, the military could launch a massive subjugation campaign before the next magical beast wave hits. Lieutenant General Owen Sang, a master rank himself, figures it'll be easy since a father and son are involved. He demands a meeting with General Kim. The very next day, we're at our hero's hometown. Inside his father's office, the general hangs up the phone, letting out a heavy sigh. His wife remarks how shocked she is that Tae-joo became so important after being too weak to even get into college. And just like that, you and I both know what's coming. She rushes to book tickets, claiming she has to protect him from scammers. But her husband stops her, telling her to leave him alone. He wants nothing to do with the family's black sheep he already disowned. His wife fires back, reminding him that regardless of some piece of paper, they're still connected by blood. She says they should help each other, but as she appeals to him, she realizes he knows she tried to have his son killed. She starts to shake, her composure completely gone. But she tells herself there's no proof since the hitman is already dead. She screams at her husband to get the antidote from his son for the military. She whines that her family's territory can't support them anymore, and that he needs to think about his other two sons' tuition. And for that exact reason, General Kim tells her to go see her stepson herself. He makes it crystal clear what he thinks of her intentions. His wife is left standing there absolutely fuming with frustration. So she storms out of the room, vowing to do things her own way, and slamming the door behind her. The general is finally alone. His son, the one he thought was dead after he vanished for months, is actually thriving out in the Free City. You and I just saw a whole lot of family drama, but the truth, the father was just relieved his son was alive and happy. Alright, let's jump into how a simple shopping trip can explode into a full-blown corporate war. We're in the Free City's market inside the swanky Flame Boutique. Amidst racks of pricey suits, our protagonist is handed something truly unique. The mage confirms it's a perfect fit. Tae-joo is seriously impressed with this coat custom-made from magical beast leather. Its light has great defense, perfect temperature control, and a killer color. Best part, the mage added all the pockets he asked for. The lady who thought his request was weird finally gets it. Seeing his arsenal of weapons, she asks if he's a hunter. Tae-joo tries to pay the 3.4 billion won bill, but she insists it's a gift. Our hero points out this must be awkward since this coat was obviously meant for someone else. But the mage brushes it off, saying she's already compensated the original customer. Tae-joo pauses for a second, thinking. Then he asks for a bunch of other stuff, a clever way to support her business and grab gifts for the orphans. She has no choice but to agree, asking him to wait while she gets everything ready. For her, dealing with a genuinely good person is a breath of fresh air compared to the usual arrogant awakeners. Just then someone else walks in. A mysterious man rushes over, claiming he's been looking all over for our hero. He leans in close and introduces himself, Hoon Suk, the CEO of UJ Pharmacy. Instantly, Tae-joo's guard goes up. The CEO can tell his surprise visit is not going over well. Tae-joo confirms it and asks flat out how the hell he found him here. Hoon Suk smirks, saying the Pharmacy Association has eyes and ears everywhere in the city. And now we get to the real reason he's here. Hoon Suk demands that our hero sell them the mosquito antidote. Tae-joo can't help but feel like he's being threatened. The CEO claims it's just a favor, which our hero instantly shuts down. Hoon Suk even offers to help him break his contract with Bae Kang Pyo, but Tae-joo is a man of his word. When offered 5 billion won, he scoffs, saying he'd never sell it for so cheap. The CEO's patience is wearing thin. Real thin. He warns Tae-joo that making an enemy of him will make life difficult, but our boy couldn't care less and tells him to get lost. At that moment, the shop owner comes back out thinking a new customer arrived. Tae-joo just waves it off, saying it was a beggar he sent away. Outside, Hoon Suk is furious, dead set on making him pay. He immediately gets on the phone, telling his people to begin the regular operation. Later that day, we're at the border of the Free City where our hero's mansion is being built. Tae-joo shows up loaded with bags, finally arriving at the site. The old director is surprised to see him carrying so much. He explains he bought clothes for the orphans to show his gratitude to their director. And the old man just breaks down, overwhelmed by his kindness, vowing to become an even better person. This is exactly the reaction Tae-joo wanted to see. He's also grateful to Hong Pyo for making sure the construction of his mansion is going off without a hitch. And when he says he's ready to accept his proposal, the old man asks if he's absolutely sure. Tae-joo says his run-in with Hoon Suk sealed the deal. This makes the director furious, worried the CEO might have hurt him. But Tae-joo reassures him it was just threats, explaining it was a harsh reminder of how the world treats the powerless. For that very reason, you and I know what comes next. He's taking the old man's advice to start his own pharmaceutical company, asking for his continued help. Tae-joo then tells the director to keep up the great work on the construction while he's away. While he waits for his new company to launch, our hero is heading off to create some brand new drugs. But deep down, he's a little annoyed that nobody even noticed his awesome new coat. The Chaos Form Poison Spirit art developed by the Supreme Poisonous Demon, the strongest warrior in all of Muram. It's a powerful mix of his clan's ancient techniques, 5 elements, chi cultivation, and a few other martial arts. It's broken down into 10 stars, and each new level unlocks a completely new ability. But after mastering all 10 stars, you need true enlightenment to obtain the Poison Spirit, the key to the ultimate technique. 10,000 Torrential Petal Rain. And trust me, you're going to want to see this in action. It's the move that took down the heavenly demon himself. Alright, let's dive straight into the chaos, a magical beast outbreak zone where a massive shockwave just hit. It's man versus beast. Our poison user takes a deep breath, grips his knife, and slams it right into his opponent's skull. And just like that, the giant monster goes down. A crushing victory for Tianyu. He honestly didn't expect a Poison Claw lynx to be this enormous. Its skin was so tough that Tianyu's energy and weapons could barely scratch it. He's only a 3rd-star warrior, basically low tier, which is why he needs to absorb monster poisons to get stronger. Tianyu spots a huge poisonous gem and smirks with the old master's knowledge. Cultivation is going to be easy. With all this ancient wisdom packed in his head, our protagonist is primed for some rapid growth, though his body struggled with poison at first. But now that he's stabilized, he's finally ready to shatter that 3rd-star limit. His next target is the Spore Poison Water Deer, but first he snaps back to reality, realizing he has to get his expensive throwing knives. The Spore Poison Water Deer is a peaceful animal that doesn't attack people. It looks like a camel with 2 humps. In a flash, Tianyu decapitates the poor thing without a second thought. The most terrifying thing about this creature, the moment it dies, its humps explode. A cloud of microscopic toxic spores is instantly released into the air. And just like that, he's trapped in a poison fog. This stuff can melt gas masks and takes a full hour to clear. After a quick examination, he decides to absorb it all. It's the strongest poison he's ever seen. So Tianyu starts pulling the toxins right into his body. He focuses with everything he's got drawing and all the poison energy. If he can absorb all of this poison, he'll finally be able to reach the next star. Hours later, after non-stop chi circulation, he starts to think he might have absorbed too much, since turning it into energy is taking forever. But since Earth has way more poison types than the martial world, his growth is basically guaranteed. He refuses to be weak ever again. He's done bowing his head to anyone. And after hours of hard work, Tae-joo Kim finally achieves the 4th star. He rises a new man. His mountain trip took longer than expected, but he got stronger, and even found an antidote for the deer's poison. And with that, Tae-joo decides it's time to head home. He's worried about the YJ pharmacy, and can't waste another second. That night, he finally drops his backpack at the old shop. Tae-joo rushes to greet the owner, assuming business is great because the shelves are completely empty. But Bike, the owner, was just worried sick. Our hero was unreachable for 15 straight days. The worried receptionist welcomes him back too. Tae-joo apologizes, saying he was training, then asks what the problem is. Turns out other pharmaceutical companies have pulled their products and refused to supply them anymore. To make things even worse, the Drug Approval Committee is now demanding the antidotes ingredient list, supposedly to check for side effects. Tae-joo knows instantly who's behind all this. Yep, you guessed it, Jo Hoon-suk. The owner explains this is the CEO's favorite way to crush rivals, revealing he's the emperor of the committee. On top of that, refusing to share the ingredient list will get their product banned from being sold. Tae-joo thinks it through, and realizes his enemy probably has even more dirty tricks planned. These guys are so predictable. That's why our hero decides it's time to hit them with a surprise move. So Tae-joo proposes they double down on the committee's threat, but the owner has no idea what he means. Tae-joo says they should stop selling the product themselves, playing into the rumors about side effects. Later that night, at an orphanage, smoke fills the air from a barbecue. The entire place, along with a special guest, is having a feast. After one bite, Tae-joo is completely stunned. The meat he just tasted is absolutely out of this world. Turns out, the spotted poison water deer is considered the most delicious meat in the entire empire. So the rumors about the emperor hoarding all the poisoned deer carcasses, turns out they were 100% true. And stick with me here because preparing that antidote, it was the single best decision he ever made. His original plan was simple: protect civilians during a beast wave. But now the entire game had changed. This food wasn't just good, it was dangerously addictive, sparking a new idea, a full-blown deer meat business. He could just picture it, the emperor, a master swordsman, becoming his #1 customer, totally hooked on the stuff. At that moment, director Hong Pyo stood up to speak, thanking our hero for the incredible meal. He praised him for creating the antidote, but admitted he was worried about the pharmacy being closed for so long. Tae-joo, however, simply explained that this was all for the better. Time would soon reveal who would truly suffer from them holding back the antidote. 5 days later, a man named Jin-soo was getting furious. The pharmacy was still closed and he was almost out of antidote. People were starting to whisper that the antidote had serious side effects, forcing the owner to shut down his shop for good. After hearing them talk, the beta tester got seriously annoyed at the baseless gossip. But just as he stepped in, someone quickly stopped him cold. It was Lee Yunsheng, here to maintain order. The sight of the vigilante captain drew a crowd, with people whispering about the pharmacy's ties to the committee. Now pay attention, because the captain dropped a bombshell. The committee had officially banned the antidote's sale, pending a formula check. In that instant, the beta testers screamed that there were no side effects, and without it they'd all be forced back into bug-proof suits. As the public's complaints grew louder and louder, the vigilante captain just smirked. He was irritated that someone beneath him actually had the nerve to talk back, but he decided not to waste his blade on them, annoyed that the administrative officer was making him do this job. As everyone else scattered, only one person, the loyal customer, decided to stand his ground. The captain shot him a look, asking if he had the power to back up his arrogance. And just like that, Jin-soo bailed. The captain couldn't care less about the medicine. His real target was Jo Hoon-suk, the man manipulating the committee. Meanwhile, watching on a call with the administrative officer, Jo Hoon-suk gloated about forcing the captain to do his dirty work. The officer explained that because of him and the chairman, the third committee member would always be outvoted. He confirmed that they had already launched the second phase of their plan. He promised the officer a huge reward, certain their enemy wouldn't last much longer without a miracle. Back on our hero's side, Tae-joo was in negotiations with Lieutenant General Oh Jin-hyung, offering 1 million antidote bottles to the Defense Corps. The Lieutenant General paused for a moment, pointing out the extremely high price tag. Tae-joo got nervous, worried he'd insulted the man by demanding the full market price from the military. But to his shock, the officer beside him said his commander seemed very pleased by the offer. Then the general claimed Tae-joo was selling his product for way too low a price, leaving the young man completely confused. After confirming they had the necessary funds, the commander demanded half the money be paid immediately as a down payment. But Tae-joo had one more product to show. Aiming to create his own company, the young man had developed something entirely new. He unveiled the package and urged the commander to try it, who was confused to see meat cooked just for him. The lieutenant general explained that he had been avoiding meat recently for health reasons. Tae-joo urged him to give it to the emperor, instead revealing that it was the spore-poisoned water deer meat. The other officer in the room was stunned. This meat was legendary for having a texture like no other. Our protagonist simply nodded in confirmation, and that's where we leave it, with the commander so impressed he offers Tae-joo a spot back in the army, triggering a killer instinct in our hero. Mount Jiri's Magical Beast Defense Corps. An elite imperial order. Their one job is to fight beast waves and keep the numbers down. So when he arrived, the commander felt the pressure, but let's be real, you and I know he's finally found a way to save his own skin. All the lieutenant general could think about was that water deer cure. Just then, his subordinate reports that the hero has been paid and that his orders are going off without a hitch. The commander totally called it. Because of Jo Hoon-suk, Tae-joo would come to them, and a water deer hunt was already set for tomorrow. He tells his man to keep an eye on our boy Tae-joo and help him out if he needs it. The general then gives some praise to his adjutant, who despite having zero connections always gets perfect results. The guy is just glad to finally be noticed. The commander suddenly raises his voice, putting a hand on his subordinate's shoulder. Tears in his eyes, he tells the adjutant they're going to climb the ranks together all the way to the emperor. And just like that, the two of them start chanting our protagonist's name. Meanwhile, at the brand new Kim residence, the owner is saying setting up his company is going smoothly. The old man offers to handle all the paperwork as soon as our hero picks out a name. Tae-joo is thrilled. The military contract is signed, and now watch how fast everything starts to move. That commander proved his worth, quickly going public with the news of his exclusive contract with our hero. Baek Hong-pyo then explains he used the 25 billion down payment from the military to pay back their loan. But he also made sure to close their accounts at that bank after all the trouble they'd caused him. Tae-joo agrees it was the right call, and tells him to use the rest of the money for the orphanage. He then admits that running a business by himself is going to be tough, so he needs a partner he can trust. So right then and there, he offers the old pharmacist the chance to be co-owner of his company. The orphanage director is stunned, thinking he's not qualified since he only runs a small pharmacy. But our hero thinks very differently. Tae-joo is a genius with drugs, but he's a total rookie when it comes to business. He needs the help. Hong-pyo never expected to be seen as a reliable partner, so in the end he gratefully accepts. But the old man insists on only taking 10% of the profits. Tae-joo immediately shuts that down. Since his partner is running operations, he insists on 30%. I know what you're thinking, that's a class act right there. Hongpyo agrees but says he won't be the one running things. He knows someone way more suited for the job. The old man is talking about Baek So-yeon, who our hero met once before in the orphanage bunker. He says she's his smartest child, and he'll contact her immediately. After 2 decades as director, Hongpyo has connections. He knows a lot of people in society from all sorts of jobs, making him way more powerful than he looks. And that's when our hero knew for sure that making him co-owner was the right decision. Tae-joo then suggests they combine their names for the company, and just like that, Tae-hong Bio is born. Just then, the old man says he's already called some of his older kids who became awakeners. This completely confuses our hero. Turns out the CEO of Yaji Pharmacy is a dangerous man, which means Tae-joo now needs bodyguards. But the young man says he doesn't need protection and tells the bodyguards to go protect their home instead. The old man is shocked. His partner obviously has a plan. Still, it's pretty clear that our protagonist, without any markings, isn't a powerful awakener. He's probably just relying on his experience as a soldier. Our hero sees the look in his eyes. It's not distrust, it's concern, and Hongpyo quickly confirms it. That being said, our hero decides to try a different approach. He demands that the orphanage director call all of the bodyguards to him at once. Tae-joo wants to prove his power and test the antidote. And the best way to do both is to take them hunting. Later that day, deep inside the magical beast border zone, the group moves through the woods. Some of the orphans can't help but admire the drug maker's expensive coat and his high-end gear. But even so, they think he's weak. One of them taps their new boss on the shoulder, and you and I both know what's coming next. Alright, let's jump into this. 25-year-old Baek Chang-hoon, a user rank, decides to take point to keep everyone safe as they enter Magic Beast territory. He tells Tae-joo to call him Hyungnam, a respectful term for a slightly older guy. The swordsman then explains that despite its cool stats, the coat will just get in the way, and that as a user he's a much better fighter. Realizing he overstepped, the orphan immediately apologizes. Tae-joo calmly says he understands the concern, especially since he's completely unmarked. Still, he suggests they table the discussion until after they handle the problem at hand, which gets the swordsman's attention. Only then does he see them countless eyes opening in the sky above. The awakeners start shaking as they spot the storm martins. And just like that, the beasts dive in for the attack. Facing the danger, the bodyguards brace for battle. Chang-hoon can't believe it. He never expected monsters to show up this fast. With that, the drug maker decides it's his turn. From his pockets, he pulls out a handful of nails and some golf balls. The hero then braces himself and fires them all at once. And you're not going to believe his technique, dagger burst. His bodyguard is just speechless. Storm martins are weak, but since they attack in huge swarms, they're a massive threat. But something insane is happening to these creatures that are meant to strike fear into a user rank's heart. They were completely disintegrated. To make it crazier, our corporate hero didn't even break a sweat. The hero actually finds himself annoyed by the swarm. He complains it was so pathetic it died before he could use his real daggers. Turns out Tae-joo couldn't risk hurting the children of the previous owner. To end the fight quickly, he used hidden weapons called torrential rain, pure blossom needles, and iron pellets. The main issue for our hero is that these weapons are disposable, meaning his wallet is about to feel some serious pain. Tae-joo is itching to hit the 7th star, so he can finally get the all-important retrieval skill. Just then, the young swordsman approaches our hero, asking if he's one of those masters who can hide their marks. Tae-joo clarifies he's not even an awakener to begin with, and says he'll take the lead. Chang-hoon argues that he's supposed to be protecting him, but as Tae-joo just walks ahead, the young man starts to wonder who this guy really is. Later on, after pushing through the tall grass, they finally have eyes on the prey. A water deer. Chang-hoon starts to panic, and asks the protagonist what the plan is. Tae-joo just points out the deer thinks its poison makes it untouchable. He then tells everyone to take their medicine so they can finally start the hunt. Even so, the orphans are having second thoughts. And can you blame them? This medicine is still in the testing phase. But then again, these orphans need to support their father, and they've already seen this drug maker's power and genius up close. After thinking it over, they decide to put their full trust in him. Chang-hoon charges in first, telling his siblings to use the monogun if the prey tries to run. With that, the swordsman draws his blade. He rushes head-on at the monster. Spotting the threat, the water deer lets out a piercing scream. The creature's cry is so loud that even the awakeners can barely keep their footing against the sonic blast. Even so, the swordsman dodges the worst of it by leaping into the air. From above, he unleashes his skill Bisection Slash. Chang-hoon successfully takes the monster's head off. The orphans stay on guard, knowing the spores are coming next. Right on cue, the bubble on the deer's back finally bursts. A cloud of extremely toxic spores fills the air. Tae-joo, who had some doubts himself, is absolutely thrilled with the results. The antidote was a complete success, and the gutsy kid with little potential seems promising too. The orphans are ecstatic that the poison has no effect. Chang-hoon feels a massive wave of relief now that the antidote is proven to work. The protagonist confirms his point was made without its poison. The water deer is totally harmless. While some happy orphans apologize for ever doubting him, others claim they believed in him the whole time. With that, our hero resumes the hunt. Before they move out, however, he tells his bodyguard to take the deer meat, noting that once the antidote is public, the species will be hunted to extinction. Meanwhile, in New Seoul, located in the former Manchuria region at the MG headquarters, employees are working non-stop. Just then, someone approaches manager Beck. She's 30-year-old Se-yeon, the youngest manager in the entire strategic planning department. The man known as Joan Joo-hyuk cuts straight to the chase and asks the girl if she was truly an orphan raised by Hong Pak. And trust me, this question changes everything. She confirms that she was. Alright, stick with me on this one. A boss asks his top manager to put everything on hold, an offer that catches her completely off guard. The deputy head Joan Joo-hyuk wants her to go back to her hometown for a little favor, and she has no idea what he's planning. He points to the news a company called Taehong Bio is making serious waves. She's heard of them, of course. They're the ones who created the antidote for water deer poison. But here's the twist she never saw coming. Her own father is the co-owner of that company. The deputy head, speaking for his higher-ups, lays it out plain and simple: get the antidote formula from her dad. The reward for this little family betrayal, a promotion, and a fat paycheck. Se-young is disgusted. Betray the man who runs her orphanage, but just as she's about to refuse, her phone buzzes. It's her father. She excuses herself to take the call while Hong Bio starts chatting with his daughter. The boss waits impatiently for her to finish. A moment later, she hangs up, a smile on her face. He asks for her answer. Se-young says she'll go back to her hometown. For a second, the balding man looks thrilled. And then bam, she slams her badge right onto his desk. And that's how the company's youngest manager quits. You and I know she's sick of watching small men like him try to step on others. With that, she walks out, flipping off her furious old boss on the way. Later that night, back at our main character's building, the orphans are still hard at work. Tae-joo thanks them for their dedication, then tells them to head back to the orphanage and let him handle the rest. Chun-hun protests, worried. His father's orders were to protect the drug creator at all costs. But Tae-joo casually proves he doesn't need a babysitter, insisting they go protect their home instead. He figures it's unlikely anyone would attack the city's only orphanage. The public outrage would be massive. Then again, this world is filled with absolute madmen. And this free city seems to be their favorite playground. That's why Tae-joo needs allies he can trust, like the orphans. Once the company is fully staffed and processing the antidote ingredients on its own, Tae-joo will finally be free to invent new drugs. He started this just to save some cash, but now, things have changed. Not that he's complaining about the money. A guy couldn't afford a luxury apartment like this without it. He still feels a little strange stepping into what is now his own home. He hangs up his coat. He was supposed to die back in Paishu, but somehow he survived the attempt on his life. After his soul literally merged with that of a master martial artist, he started over in the free city working as a simple porter, before creating his first miracle drug. But the biggest win, the good people he's met. Tae-joo's been on a wild ride in a very short time. In his mind, this city is just the first step. The real goal is complete independence. Now pay attention, because later that night a beginner-rank villain boss named Ma Sang-shik sneaks onto our hero's property. He's green with envy. This newcomer already owns his own building. How is that fair? His subordinate explains it's because the mosquito antidote was a huge hit, and the deer antidote is next. The boss snaps at him to shut up and stop stating the obvious. Ma Sang-shik is pissed. If it wasn't for direct orders from the CEO of UJ Pharmacy, he'd have snatched Tae-joo already. But he has to follow orders from Jo Hun-suk. After a few minutes of fumbling with the lock, the thugs are finally inside. The plan is simple: skip the talking, inject the target with a knockout drug, and make the kidnapping easy. With that, the door creaks open. Syringe in hand, they creep forward. The criminal lunges, but just as the needle is about to hit skin, his hand just stops. Tae-joo has been wide awake this entire time. He reveals he was almost tempted to let them try the injection. The boss yells at his goon to get on with it. But when he learns his subordinate's hand is completely stuck, the villain is absolutely speechless. Tae-joo starts to move calmly, stating he saw them coming from a mile away. In a flash, before the criminal can even blink his target, and the syringe are just gone. Tae-joo always hated needles, and that's the moment you and I see it in their eyes. They're starting to realize their target is no ordinary mana reject. Alright, let me show you something insane. The hero grins and asks the villains if the drug works better if you just drink it. This level of disrespect sends the syndicate leader into a rage. But then the unthinkable happens. Their target Tae-joo actually drinks the poison, enjoys the rush, and asks his enemies if they have any more. See, this drug trafficking syndicate has been plaguing the city. and everyone knows they have a mole on the committee. The drug they've been pushing. A deadly poison is now flowing through our main character. This is the first time he's ever faced a toxin like this. But at the 4th star level, he can handle it, remembering how his master used to sample poisons for fun back in the day. So Tae-joo decides, hey, why not become a junkie, just like his old master? To boost his own poison essence, he literally sucks the drugs right out of his opponent's body. The boss is absolutely horrified. Tae-joo then demands to know who's pulling the strings. The guy refuses to talk, terrified for his life. So yeah, you and I know what comes next, screams that echo through the night. The next morning, the vigilante captain stares out his window, deep in thought. Kim Tae-joo, the same guy who created the miracle drug, has just reported a crime. His subordinate confirms that Tae-joo caught gangsters in his house, and now they need the vigilantes to handle the mastermind. The captain instantly knows the CEO of UJ Pharmacy is behind this, and starts blaming him for this mess. The easy way out would be to just arrest him. But a powerful CEO, that's way too much trouble. He realizes this is a nasty case, and the investigation is going to be a nightmare for his squad. For that reason, the captain starts thinking there's only one way to handle this situation. Meanwhile, back at our hero's place, the 2 owners are standing over their prisoners. The villain boss is completely zoned out, basically brain dead. And that's when someone arrives. The vigilantes are on the scene. Hong Pyo welcomes them warmly, but to his shock, the captain walks right past him. The master stands over the gangster. As one of the vigilantes tries to hold the owner back, the captain draws his sword. The man pulls rank, declaring he's executing the villain on the spot. Suddenly, something is thrown at him. The captain barely parries the incoming dagger. Tae-joo steps in, demanding to know why the captain is trying to kill his only witness. Okay, this is where it gets crazy. He then plays a video of the boss confessing everything, that the UJ Pharmacy CEO was behind it all. But from the look on the captain's face, Tae-joo can tell he already knew all of this. When asked for his name, he arrogantly says it's Tae-joo. The captain immediately recognizes him as the drug developer. He tries to calm himself down. The Master Awakener takes a closer look at the man before him and realizes he looks familiar. It finally clicks. This is the same porter from back then. Tae-joo doesn't say a word at first. But when asked if he made the mosquito antidote, he confirms it. The swordsman scoffs, saying it's not that impressive, and then cracks a smug smile. The captain then declares that in this city he is the law. He gives our hero one last chance, let him execute the criminals now. But Tae-joo refuses. Hearing this, the master dares the mana reject to even try and stop him. Tae-joo has no time to think. He instantly draws his knives and flings them at the captain, who feels the danger from the incoming blades. He unleashes a storm of sword slashes to block them. It's obvious now the drug creator caught these guys himself. He can't help but be impressed, admitting that Tae-joo has the skill to actually scratch him. So, for preventing an execution twice, the committee member sentences Tae-joo to death. Our hero could not care less. But as our hero keeps talking smack, he notices something. He leaps into the air to dodge a blade and throws his own knives back. Tae-joo is winding up for a massive attack. His opponent is doing the exact same thing. But their fight is cut short by the sound of an approaching helicopter. And just when you think it can't get any wilder, men in jumpsuits jump out. The lieutenant general is here to stop this mess. Leaping from the helicopter and landing with a heavy thud, the commander brings the entire battle to a screeching halt. With the military here, everyone is on edge. Alright, let's watch 2 absolute monsters go head to head. The lieutenant general confronts his rival Yoon Hak, who demands to know what the military's doing in his city. The commander claps back, he doesn't need permission for a visit. The captain just accuses them of meddling in city business. But the powerful Awakener makes one thing clear, he isn't here as a general. Oh, Jin-hyuk says he's just a civilian today. So he tells the other master to stay out of his business and he'll stay out of theirs. Yeah, that doesn't go over well. Ignoring him, the general rushes to his friend, who confirms he's not hurt. Still, his allies are screaming for justice. Master rank General Gu Jun-young swears he'll crush anyone who messed with the guy who gave them all the antidote. Another master, Park Pil-sung, offers his own men to serve as bodyguards. The third major, Hong Junta, even proposes getting him some medicine. The vigilante captain sees all this and figures it out. Tae-joo must know these military brutes because his father's a general. So he swallows his pride and decides to leave. Oh, Jin-hyuk taunts him to stay, but the captain insists he's a busy man. The soldier just scoffs, saying he doesn't look busy at all. He then roasts the vigilante captain for doing a terrible job letting punks like these run wild all over his city. He offers backup, but the captain flatly refuses. So the captain tries grabbing his prisoners to leave, but Oh Jin-hyuk drops a bomb he's keeping the delinquents. Now pay attention, because this is a straight-up declaration of war. When challenged, the general explains that these guys tried to hurt his friend, and they absolutely have to be punished. Jung Hak tries to bring up the imperial decree, but his opponent just switches up his strategy. Oh Jin-hyuk reminds him that while they're both masters, they are not on the same level. And suddenly the captain starts to sweat. He makes it crystal clear the Emperor wouldn't even care if he ended the captain's life right here, right now. The vigilante trembles talking about consequences, but the other masters just laugh, eager for the order to tear him apart. In that moment, Young-hak realizes he is in some very deep trouble. Seeing his own men trembling, he knows he has no choice. He quietly backs down and gets out of there. Oh Jin-hyuk notes the captain has been pampered for too long. With that done, our hero thanks him for the save. The lieutenant general says he will always do anything to help an ally. Turns out they rushed over the second Hong Pyo called them. And just like that, the worst-case scenario was avoided. Because the general got involved, both our main character and his partner walked away completely unharmed. To make things even better, they got to keep their witnesses. Oh Jin-hyuk declares he's taking them to hunt down the mastermind. But let's pause here. Tae-joo steps up saying this is his problem to solve and his alone. The soldier disagrees. If anyone tampers with the antidote production, the entire military is at risk. He even promises that the drug creator won't have to deal with that vigilante captain ever again. This gets Tae-joo thinking that his 4-star poison is still way too weak to really affect a master. The captain barely seemed fazed by it. If the general hadn't shown up, defeat would have been almost certain. And for that reason, Tae-joo is now driven to get more power so he'll never feel helpless again. Meanwhile, the vigilante captain is absolutely fuming. He wants the hero and the commander dead. That's when he finally notices a scratch from the hero's throwing knives. He immediately suspects they were poisoned, and right on cue, a sharp pain rips through him. The poison is already spreading. He realizes in that moment that he's in serious danger. His subordinate can tell something is very wrong. He orders his man to get him to a hospital immediately. The vigilante floors it, speeding away. And just like that, a master-level fighter has been severely weakened. Later, flying high in the air, the military personnel are watching the prisoners. Terrified, the syndicate boss promises to tell them everything. But the general calmly says his testimony isn't needed. He then turns to one of his soldiers. Without a word, the man grabs the handle and slides the chopper door wide open. And trust me, you and I are about to see just how the military solves its problems. The 4 criminals meet a cold, brutal end as they're tossed out. The task was finished. Juntae's next mission is to take out the CEO of Yojay Pharmacy. The commander even dispatches troops to protect our hero's company. And just like that, Oh Jin-hyuk finally gets his chance to get close to Kim Tae-joo. Meanwhile, Si-young gets a call from Chang-hoon right as her train pulls into the city. She's completely shocked to hear their father's partner just gave the orphanage billions of won. And when she learns he finalized a second antidote, Se-young is absolutely speechless. It turns out Tae-joo wasn't a scammer at all. With that, she hangs up and hops in a taxi. The girl tells the driver to take her home, now totally sure this trip to the city won't be a waste. Later at the orphanage, the kids are as energetic as ever, and Hong Pyo is happy to see one of them arrive. She explains she rushed right over after her father called. Hong Pyo thanks her and asks her to follow him. Si-young wonders if there's a celebration going on and asks what's cooking in the pot. The old man says it's water deer, poisoned by spores. Hearing this, she is completely stunned. And this right here, this is the moment you and I see her realize her brother was telling the absolute truth. Hong Pyo suggests they go meet his partner who's waiting for her while our hero decides to feed the orphans. With that, the old man makes the introductions. Tae-joo greets Se-young with a friendly smile. But this isn't their first meeting. She apologizes for being so rude before excited to join his company. Our hero feels relieved when she promises to give her all to make Tae-joo better. But she isn't the only one offering help. Someone approaches him and our hero turns curious. It's Major Do Min-soo, assigned to guard the place with 19 of his best men. The hero is grateful, but points out that housing 20 soldiers might be a bit much for his space. The major just says they can handle themselves. And like that, Tae-joo is working with the military again. As the major gets invited to the feast, you can tell he's secretly hyped for that water deer meat. He orders his soldiers to set up camp and then get some food. Kim Tae-joo isn't alone anymore. He finally has his own crew. Meanwhile, in the castle of the Free City, the Yojay Pharmacy CEO is in a meeting room, his crimes laid bare. When asked if he's guilty, he has no choice but to confess. Not only is Jo Hun-sok broke, he's now a total outcast. His enemy is alive and his hired assassin is gone. And just when you think this guy hit rock bottom, it gets so much worse. The criminal's options are drying up fast. Jo Hun-sok plans to lay low until the heat dies down. But on his way to a safe house, a red light flashes. A motorcycle appears from behind. He turns his head, only to see metal shattering the glass right by his ear. Then everything goes red. The seats are soaked in blood. The mission is done. The assassin heads back to base. Elsewhere in a hospital, the vigilante captain is barely hanging on to life. Just then his subordinate rushes in with the item he requested, a top-tier elixir from the Mirene company. The master demands it now. Without a second to waste, he grabs the sphere and consumes it. In an instant, the poison is purged from his veins. He expected nothing less from such an expensive item. But then something inside him suddenly breaks. The man in agony starts screaming Kim Tae-joo's name all over again. As the company gets bigger, its owner knows they need more medicine, so he heads deep into the mountains for a giant moon bear's gallbladder. Besides medicine, he has to consume new poisons to level up his own martial arts. After downing an insane amount of deer poison, he'd only just reached the 4th star, but now he's already closing in on the 5th. That's when he notices something. Our hero finds a poison sap tree which creates a toxic ooze. That deadly poison has a surprisingly sweet taste. Then Tae-joo spots a blue fire-bellied toad that carries a nasty poison in its guts. Seeing it has properties like anesthesia, he decides to keep it for his research. Soon after, he finds a giant white wood centipede. The creature is absolutely massive, as big as a serpent. Its poison is strong enough to kill an orc in a single bite. But to our martial artist, it actually feels refreshing. Just then, he spots something in the distance. And you and I both know that white symbol in the bushes is about to change everything. And there it is. The giant moon bear, finally tracked down, lets out a world-shaking roar. Alright, stick with me here. He wasn't expecting it this fast, but it's time to test its strength. Flying daggers out, he unleashes a volley of blades. But the beast just swats them away like flies. Its speed is insane. The bear charges straight for him. Tae-joo slips behind it, launching a lightning-fast counterattack. For a second, it looks like a clean hit. But the bear just flexes its back muscles and pops the knives right out. Tae-joo switches it up, landing a blood seal poison palm. The monster. It doesn't even flinch and just keeps attacking. Those claws slice through solid wood like it's nothing. Our hero needs another plan to overpower this thing, but it's no use. All of his attacks are completely ineffective. Now this is where most people would just give up. The bear's too strong for his current 4th star level. There's only one way out. He needs more power, and he needs it now. So he pulls out the blue fire-bellied toad and swallows it whole. A centipede goes down right after. Venom floods his system, and now he just has to convert it all into poison essence. The conversion is quick. And just like that, our poisonous martial artist officially hits the 5th star. Okay, let that sink in. The whole fight just changed. Tae-joo decides to bust out a new toy, the blood butterflies. The metal insects swarm directly at the bear. This is a hidden art you can only use at 5th star because it lets the user control their projectiles every move. With that kind of control, he easily guides one into the bear's eye and another into its left ear. The fight is over. You and I just witnessed a perfect victory. Tae-joo slayed his target and hit a new level. Now for the prize. He reaches deep inside the monster's gut and pulls out the very organ he came all this way for. The bear's gallbladder. It's filled with a powerful poison, so he has to coat it in energy to pull it out safely. So that's exactly what he does. With the key ingredient in hand, Kim Tae-joo can finally prepare a brand new elixir.